Right.
So the struggle begins. He's being dragged down, trying to compel compliance. Strikes, open palm strikes to the face. There, see the hands open. It's not being punched. Try to compel compliance. The guy who's crouched over under that silver bar, he's going to straighten up. This is when the shot is fired, right here. And I don't see that elbow prior to this point. This is when the shot is fired. And then go a few seconds more. There's the elbow. That image with the crooked elbow occurs, I believe, after this image, occurs after the shot, the first shot has been fired.
Oh, fuck! They killed me!
You see the guy who's not all the way to the left, but he's kind of bent over there. He's right by that vertical silver bar in the windows, that guy. He straightens up here, and right then...
Oh, right here.
And he's got a gun in his hand. Right then is the first gunshot. And then there's a slight pause, and there's a flurry of shots after that. So that could have implications for what happens. I hear rumors that this cop's pulling away with that gun, holding it out to the right, away from the suspect as he is, because that may be the suspect's gun. This says, person shot in Minneapolis today by Border Patrol pulled the gun beforehand. The man also had 2 loaded magazines. This is a still frame from the video. I noticed this too.
So, hey guys, we are starting tonight with bringing you the latest from Minneapolis. This is Andrew Branca, one of the nation's leading experts on self-defense law. Andrew is a criminal defense attorney and the author of The Law of Self-Defense, which is widely regarded as the definitive guide to understanding when and when not to use the use of force is legally justified. We're bringing you the latest of what's happening in Minneapolis and how Christians are reacting to this. Wanted to start the show off tonight with this. So here we go. Let's continue here.
This is the suspect here, the lower body here, just below that letter N on the window. That's the suspect. And you can see his elbow is crooked as if he's reaching for his waistband. So that looks bad. A shot has already been fired at this point, I believe. Now, this account says you can see a gun sticking out of the back of the guy's jacket and an officer pulls it away. Can you see that in this image? Because I don't see that in this image. Her video was posted. Does anybody have a link? Okay, so this is the video. Let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, somebody shoved somebody. Neither one of those look like ice. There's a shove, and then it looks like the same person who shoved looks like they're deploying pepper spray at that tall dude's face. That tall dude may be the guy with the gun. Watch it again. We get the shove, pepper spray. Here's ice coming in now. The woman's back on the ground. It almost looks like the guy who got shot is with the woman who got shoved, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's got his arm around somebody there. Then the woman who gets shoved is to the left, and the woman who shoves her has got the light-colored cap on to the right. Comes in, there's the shove. The tall man intervenes, gets sprayed in the face, again, bends over to help the woman up. He's helping her up. She slips, falls again. He goes down on his hands and knees. Looks like he's still trying to help her up. Looks like he's being grabbed by the woman who pepper sprayed him. And now ice begins to come in. It looks like ice may have just been coming in to break up this fracas. But while everyone's wrestling, they're wrestling with the guy who gets shot. These are all ice here. The guy in the middle with the grayish colored jacket, I think he's the guy who's going to stand up, and then we'll hear the gunshot. Like he may have taken a gun off the victim here. He stands up, and I think that's when the gunshot is.
Okay, folks. So this is the latest in Minneapolis. Okay, so before we get into it, across time zones and platforms, this is Christian Conservative, your trusted source for bold, unfiltered news and analysis on the issues that matter most to Christian conservatives. From faith and family to politics and culture, we tackle the hard truths and stand firm on biblical principles. All right, how are you doing tonight, Michelle?
Hey guys, I'm doing well tonight. We're staying warm over here in Maryland, and I hope you guys are all doing well in this big winter storm wherever you're at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Same here. Folks, join us as we expose the lies, defend our values, and fight for truth in a world that desperately needs it. All right. So we are starting off hot tonight, folks. We are not only we're hot, even though we're in this huge blizzard here on the East Coast. Blizzard has affected the entire East Coast, so we're all snowed in. But folks, Minnesota is literally on fire. So if you haven't heard the latest, in Minneapolis, when a federal border patrol agents shot and killed ICU nurse Alex Pretti yesterday. Okay, so this is what we were watching. So again, this is an ongoing issue. President Trump's large-scale immigration enforcement operation in Minnesota, and Saturday, which is yesterday, under Operation Metro Surge, federal agents have now fatally shot 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis neighborhoods, and the fallout is exploding into massive protests. Yesterday was a 37-year-old ICU nurse, Alex Jeffrey Pretti, was killed by U.S. Border Patrol, and that melee that you guys just saw. In response, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz have unleashed some of the harshest criticism you have probably ever heard from local officials. And rather than backing down, they've condemned the federal operation as irresponsible, dangerous, and politically motivated. And they've amplified public outrage, calling for the federal presence to end and for accountability. We wanted to bring you all, the melee that went on, and from a very respected analysis from Andrew Branca, who specializes in self-defense. What did you think so far, Michelle? What you saw?
Well, first off, what I'm seeing are people out in the streets that have no business being out in the streets.
Right.
Really, when I tell my kids and they're going out, I have a son who wants to go hang out with his friends, and I ask him, where are you going? And there was a week ago that he went out with friends, and he was, in DC, but I didn't know that. And I had to ask him, where are you at in DC? Who are you with in DC? It turns out he was in an apartment complex in DC with people he had never met before. I said, you don't know everybody. So you got to be mindful of your surroundings. And that was bad enough, but this is worse. People are going knowing the surroundings. They know that they're going to stand off against federal officers doing their job. Right. So whether you are the peaceful person there or not, because we know there are a lot of agitators, you are going there specifically to impede on federal officers doing their duty. That's just dangerous and ridiculous. And the fact that you have the Tim Walz and all of these people that are supposed to be in power telling you, yeah, stand your ground, do all that you can. Don't let them take rapists, murderers, and kids. Don't let them take people off the streets. That is insane. So that's the first thing that I notice is, why is somebody pepper spraying somebody? And that's before ICE even gets involved. It's already heated. Now, I'm going to let the investigation play out. So I won't even comment on the video, because I guarantee we're going to get 20 different variations, and we'll get some more film like we did before with the last woman.
Right. I will say this. So I've gone through concealed carry classes. And when you have your concealed carry, which they are saying the man that was shot, who was the nurse, was a registered owner of he had a concealed carry license. You are supposed to avoid being in situations where you will have to draw your weapon, your gun. Okay, so whether or not if he's going to a protest, all right, it's one thing to stand on the sidelines or to just protest, all right? And I'm still questioning whether you should take your firearm there. But if you're going to a protest and you're just standing on the sides and you're just protesting, that's one thing. But then if your intention is to actually impede an investigation, if your intention is to actually be aggressive with law enforcement, why are you concealed carrying? That makes no sense to me. You learn this in the concealed carry class. You don't want to go into situations where you may be you may be asked, it may be a situation where you'll have to brandish your gun. So to me, he shouldn't even been out there with his gun like that. That's number one for me. Let's continue to look at this a little bit more here. All right, here we go.
And everyone jumps back through the whole thing now and see what we can make of it. Guy's going to stand up in the middle, and then we'll hear the shot, the first shot, right? DHS at 9:05 a.m. Central Time, as DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal wanted for violent assault. An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm handgun, seen here. I'll have more information for you on the handgun. The officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted. More details and the armed struggle are forthcoming. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines and no ID, so I don't see how they'd know he had a concealed carry permit. This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. About 200 rioters arrived at the scene, began to obstruct and assault law enforcement. Crowd control measures were deployed for the safety of the public and law enforcement. The situation is evolving and more information is forthcoming. This person says, this is serious. Why does this keep happening? Shouts out that the triggering event has been observed by a fellow officer. That's enough for another officer to resort to the use of deadly defensive force. They're allowed to rely on their reasonable perceptions of the other officer's communications and conduct. Happens all the time.
Okay. So I want to also talk about when he also asked a very good question. He said, why is this happening here? And we're not seeing this happen in other states, particularly red states, because they're cooperating with ICE. Okay. This is why we're seeing it in Minneapolis, in Chicago and these other areas. They are not cooperating with ICE. This is ridiculous.
Right? It's plain and simple. So if I see that the police are going to somebody's house, I don't care if it's a domestic dispute. I don't care what it is. If they're going to go, if I see the police show up, I'm not going to go over, knock on the door, and then say, "Excuse me, officers, what are you doing here?" I'm going to mind my business and I'm going to watch from my window. I might even record it, but I don't need to. I've got Ring. But that's reasonable. It has gotten to where people are unreasonable, but they want this to happen. They're asking for it to happen. They're telling people to happen for this to happen. And LJ, shout out to LJ, said something about we need to start investigating who's funneling the money for these protests. Absolutely. Money is going into this. And frankly, they are looking for the next Floyd moment. They're not finding it yet. We're finding tragedy, but not that moment yet, because, unless it's really about race, it's not going to make as much money. It's not going to be as big as they want it. This is tragic. Tragically avoidable. Tragically avoidable, because the same cities didn't do this when Barack Obama was in charge, when Bill Clinton was in charge. They didn't do this. They actually cooperated with ICE, and it was a great late night special on CNN. You could watch the ride-alongs with ICE. You could watch them do their job professionally. Nobody was arguing, and the reporters would just talk about what a great job our federal officers are doing of removing criminals or illegal aliens from the streets. You're right, KJ. They're not cooperating. It is on purpose, because they need these midterms desperately. They need to prevent this administration from passing the SAVE Act desperately. They need to make sure that illegal aliens can vote, because that's the only way that they're going to continue to run this nation. They like chaos. They like confusion. And I'm telling you, China and Russia are smiling, chomping at the bit. And the devil, literally Satan, is just as happy that this is happening here in this nation right now.
Absolutely.
100% preventable.
We have a super chat here from Kung Fu CJ. Says, no king but King Jesus. Hello, ladies.
Yes, amen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, folks. As you come in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience, and we appreciate your support. All right. Please, as you come in, we got almost over 70 people watching. We want to get those likes up. That helps to get this video out in front of more people. More people need to see this. We are here, Christian conservatives, and we will not be silent. All right. So speaking of silence, let's talk about the double standards here in media. Okay. So as we said, sadly, this man, again, his name, last name was Pretti, I believe, was fatally shot by law officers yesterday. ICE. He was shot. Okay. It looks like he was impeding the investigation, as we've seen time and time again, all throughout Minneapolis, Minnesota. But again, as you mentioned, Michelle, the investigation is ongoing. However, the media, have been doing this. Was a nurse. He was murdered by ICE. This is what they've been saying over and over again. The nurse was killed by ICE. Well, there was another nurse that was murdered, but not by ICE, by an illegal. And that was 22-year-old Laken Riley. Okay. She was murdered by an illegal immigrant doing a run on a college campus. And the national media and the left-wing commentators did not sustain this level of outrage that we've seen now, despite the fact that her death became a political flashpoint in immigration debates. So, I mean, do you believe we're seeing unequal coverage, Michelle?
Always unequal, because you know what? The unrighteous and evil can never stand for the righteous getting anything. This was an innocent nurse, an innocent woman who was killed by someone who had no business in this country and already had a record. Disgusting. And the reason they didn't cover it is because it didn't fit their narrative. It wasn't going to help them. So they need what fits their narrative. Two different nurses, two different circumstances. One, I'm not going to say his death was at fault, but his death was preventable. Her death was not. Hers was something was out of her hands. It's because the administration previously, the Biden administration, allowed murderers and rapists, which is what this man was, to come into this country. The only way to prevent it is if ICE members were allowed to do their job at that time. So we're actually trying to prevent another Laken Riley. That is what these officers are trying to do. And if they are allowed to do it unimpeded, then we will also prevent the murder of this man, because he wouldn't be there. He wouldn't be protesting, because the state and police officers in the state and the governors and the mayors would be cooperating with ICE and letting the federal government do what by law they are allowed to do as federal agents.
Exactly.
It's just so simple.
Exactly. Folks, this is going on because under the Biden administration, they let in, some estimates, over 20 million illegals into the country. And so now we have, not only the closing the border is not enough. These people are already here. And remember, we had said this before, that we had said this during the election, because Biden and the Democrats had let so many illegals in. Now we're seeing them become activated, folks. This is not by happenstance. This is by design. All right. And President Trump is trying to get these people out of here. Okay. But, and so the left understands this, and they know this. And so what do? They activate these Antifa type people to cause all kind of mayhem while ICE is trying to just do their jobs. They're not trying to round up illegals that haven't done anything. These people are, here illegally. That should be cause enough. But many of them are threats to society. They are violent. They are rapists. They are assaults. The list goes on. And so now the left, the Democrats, are trying to paint a narrative that President Trump and ICE are being, irrational or overly aggressive. So this can affect the midterms. Michelle,
authoritarian. You name it. They're saying Trump is really being the dictator here. Right. I love that we have the comment posted by Nurse Teravaning that the agitators are literally paid to bait and trigger, and they're being paid. So we have a lot of people out there that are being paid to start something. That's crazy. that they're being paid to just cause chaos. And we're sitting back here and acting like they're innocent protesters. There's nothing innocent about them, especially if you look at them. Because most of the people at these protests do not reflect or look like, and I'm not even going to go into race, but they don't look like the people that live in the communities.
Right.
Let's pay attention, folks. Let's be real. So they don't look like them. They have no business being there. And again, we're just letting it happen. But this is all tactics. This is not just Democrat tactics. This is socialist tactics. This is communist tactics. So it's not even party related. It's outside of parties. And I think the Democrat Party is a part of it because they're the ones playing the fools and being the fools and electing the fools that are going to drive this nation into full-blown communism or worse. And right now, when I'm looking at some of these candidates, like we see like in Virginia with Abigail Spanberger, it's the or worse. This is dangerous for multiple reasons.
Yeah. We have a super chatter here. Laura with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Says these people are here and causing all kinds of trouble. Yes. Yes, indeed. And we can't let that get pushed in the back, because this is what the Democrats want. But these people, this is all organized, folks. Here we have a video of these ICE agitators, these Antifa agitators. They're literally fighting these law enforcement officers. I've never seen anything like it.
Get back! Get back! Get back! Get back! What the fuck is wrong with your asshole? You motherfuckers!
I mean, this was not what we saw in the 50s and the 60s during the nonviolent protests that we saw. They were not actually being aggressive with officers, even during those days. This is something different, Michelle.
No, it's beyond different. Like I said, they're not only paid, but they're paid and trained. They're doing online courses, like literally watching online a Zoom call. This is what we do. They're using our facilities and nonprofit organizations, undercover, and having these meetings to train people who are going to go into the protests and tell them what to do. And then we know that they'll show up with a bus or a car with signs that they didn't make, right? Signs that they didn't, just passing them out. I can't imagine punching police officers or ICE agents or our military. I don't care what armed service you are in, but these people are fighting them on purpose, like they have a right to do it. Like there's no consequences, because there are no consequences. And let me just say, Trump has been playing it nice only because I think he understands that the leaders are trying to push him into Insurrection Act. Like they're trying to push him to take major steps that, again, midterm elections right around the corner, to try to make sure he doesn't continue to do exactly what he's doing, which is making America better and safer for the Lincoln Rileys.
Yeah. And folks, I mean, these are not innocent protesters. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. These people are vile. So you guys remember we spoke about the church invasion last week. So in I believe it's called I think it was near St. Paul, Minnesota. Last weekend, I think it was last Sunday, was it? I'm not sure. Okay, yeah. When these protesters invaded a church in Minnesota and during service. Okay, well, more information has come out about that from the actual parishioners and people who were there. So of course we 3 of those protesters have been arrested, thank God. Okay, they were released now, but charges have been filed against them under the FACE Act. But I mean, they shouted some really crazy stuff. So that one guy, the white guy, who was really active and screaming throughout the church, one of the things he shouted was, "This ain't God's house. This is the house of the devil." Okay, about 50 members of the congregation were stuck towards the front of the church. Not only did these agitators take over the service, but they made it nearly impossible for these parishioners to go out and leave. Some of the kids were in children's church, so the parents could not even get to their kids. Can you imagine? How many of us have been at church? you have a children's church where you get your children can go to either, usually it's in the basement or it's in another room of the church. While you are in the sanctuary hearing the pastor, they take children by a certain age to another part of the church, and teachers will teach them sort of like a Sunday school. Well, when these people came in, they couldn't get to their kids. One woman broke her arm. This is what we're talking about. These are the people that we're seeing fighting these ICE agents. They're not innocent.
That's first off, that's absolutely demonic and evil, and there's no justification for breaking into a church and then preventing parents from getting to their children. And then, with that fool Lemon who had the nerve to imply, well, what about the people whose voices aren't heard? Shouldn't they be able to say something? Yeah, out in the street, not in the church, not yelling and shouting at congregation members who were 100% innocent. And in an ICE operation, if the person is innocent and belongs in the country, they're going to stay in the country. There's a process for that. So busting into a church or rioting in the streets, because this is not peaceful protesting, when you have mace and there's this whole scuffle between, it looked like, two people fighting that were both protesters. So I'm interested to see who was fighting before ICE even got involved and why. But this is what happens when you allow chaos in the street. Now, I cannot imagine that happening. I know it did happen. I can't imagine it in my church because we have way too many people that are far too strapped to let that happen. So again, to Mr. Lemon, mess around and come to another church. And all of those protesters who thought that all Christians are not peaceful. I'm just going to say they will protect their flock. They will protect the people, which is what at this point we all need to be ready to do. Because they are calling the radicals to arms. Do you understand that there are posts, and we don't have it here, but we'll share it with you. But we have posts of people saying, bring your weapons, bring your guns, get ready. This is the time. I mean, we have far left lunatics who are telling people to bring their weapons to these protests, to get ready to fight back as if this is the Revolutionary War. And somehow they're actually fighting, and this is the new Civil War. Against who? Against ICE, who's trying to remove illegal immigrants. That is wild to me.
Yeah, it is. And the leadership, the Democrat leadership in Minnesota is no better. I mean, they're actually trying to rile up this type of chaos, folks. Here is the lieutenant, I believe she is the lieutenant governor. I believe she is the Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. And here in this video, she's instructing leftists to put their bodies on the line to protest Trump and ICE.
If you are sick and tired of your government being ransacked by Donald Trump and his minions, literally taking away healthcare from your neighbors, stealing food off of the table from seniors and children, and generally being uncool with the fact that our neighbors are being disappeared, P.S. without due process, it is just called kidnapping, then show up and use your voice, put your body on the line, and use nonviolent direct action, which is one of the most important tools in our toolbox to say, I am not okay. I will not go silently into the night. I will join arms with my friends, with my neighbors, and with people who generally believe that folks should be able to afford their lives, should be treated with dignity and as human beings. Then we need to see you there. If you are sick and tired.
This is what we're talking about. Put your bodies on the line. I mean, how about if you're going to say, if these people are going to continue to say, go out and protest, why not include a caveat, since we've seen these agitators get violent? Hey, you can continue to protest, but do not impede investigations. What's so hard about saying that?
And clearly from a woman in power who doesn't understand the difference in statutes, the difference between what type of warrants, if a warrant has to be served, between federal law enforcement, state and local law enforcement. She doesn't know the difference, because if she did, if she understood, I don't know, Article 4, if she understood anything, she wouldn't have made those statements. So again, people pay attention to who you elect, because we have fools running dummies. I mean, so we have fools in leadership telling dummies what to do. And then you have Antifa in the mix, and that's a dangerous combination. It's a dangerous combination. So
And like
They're
you
not
said, Michelle, they are organized and they are sending messages to each other. Here's another post here, if you guys can see it. So here they are. One of these Antifa groups says most civil wars are actually only fought in a few locations, even though they affect the entire national territory. It is actually important for people who are able to send delegates to Minneapolis in order to get a sense of what is possible and also what is at stake. Minneapolis could be our Fallujah. Organized supply drives. Can you all believe that? Fallujah? Yes, arm the proletariat, they say. This is crazy. Wow.
Guys, we're letting right now, there is a not so silent majority that is letting this minority do what they do. They're waiting for the administration to really either put its foot down or let this carry on. We're stepping back. But if they think that somehow this new civil war will be won by them on the far left, I hate to break it to you, it's not. Because the majority of us are not far left. You got 5%. You've got the ones that still believe that men can become women and then compete against us in sports. That's the percentage that you got. Even the crazy Antifa. We saw the video clip where, well, many of you saw a video clip where if they really get into a fight, all it takes is one really angry person who's in the center or on the right to whoop, what, 5 men? So the reality is we're waiting. But you will find out that we will actually protect our children. We will actually protect our freedoms. We will actually protect our faith if it comes to that. So while they're pushing for this civil war, there's a reason why other nations know the only way they can destroy Americans is from the inside, which is what we're seeing happening. Because other nations are afraid of what would happen if Americans actually unite and fight them. They know that our militia is heavily armed. You're not going to beat us. You're not going to come in our homes and defeat us. Especially not when you get, like I said before, all those kids that are just out there hunting in the woods with time on their hands. All these families like you, KJ, myself, they make an assumption of what people with concealed carry look like. You make an assumption that we're just going to sit down on our hands and say, "Woe is me," and just watch all these video clips. That's not what's gonna happen.
No. And they continue to rile up these nuts. Here is Tim Walz out today talking about what's going on in Minnesota and comparing it to Anne Frank. Folks, yes, you heard that correct. Anne Frank and the Nazi occupation. This is nuts.
We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota.
What?
And there's one person who can end this now.
Do you all see what he's doing? This is by design, folks. Michelle, what do you think of that?
Just remember, guys, as we hear from all the reporters saying that nobody on the left, there are no Democrats that are comparing, our president to Nazis. I'm sorry, what? And here we go again. Mr. Tim, that can't keep his foot out of his mouth. If they write the children's book, I hope that they put in, the tampon machines in the boys' bathroom. I hope they put in all the other stuff that happens in Minnesota. I hope they put on the Leering Center. Let's talk about what's really happening in his state. Let's talk about all the fraud that he's trying to get away from, so he's going to deflect. Because I have a feeling this man is going to be caught up and we're going to see him in handcuffs or see charges come up against him, because we're finding more and more whistleblowers that are singing like songbirds, saying that he is involved in a lot of criminal activity, allegedly, or the covering up of all of this money. What? So I don't want to hear anything from this man anymore. I already said, aren't we done with him? He was a failed candidate. I'm thankful that he wasn't our vice president or isn't our vice president. But yeah, this is the kind of rhetoric that should actually be in jail, behind bars. And there are not kids that are being locked up. Yes, there are children who are in custody, being held and trying to be in safe places because their parents did something wrong. And let me just say this. We don't talk about it, but the leftists sure trying to use it. Oh my gosh, those poor kids, those poor kids. I don't hear them complaining when all those poor kids are left alone and we're locking up their dads and their moms here in the United States. American citizens go to jail all the time, and they have children and they have families. And you didn't care. Kamala Harris didn't care when she was locking men up in California for marijuana charges, and they didn't get to see their kids for years. She didn't care then. So I don't want to hear anything about you caring now about all those kids, because you don't.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors. This is all fake. They don't care. They just trying to play on people's emotions for midterm votes, folks. Do not fall for it. Let me tell you something. History deserves respect. Our laws deserve honest debate, okay? In the memory of real victims, I remember reading the Anne Frank book, all right? That was such a great book. I mean, it was so vivid to hear her diary, the diary of Anne Frank, and to see and understand, as best we could, all that she and her family went through. Okay, this is not that, and it should never ever be repurposed for political points. You piece of trash, Tim Walz. All right. It's one thing to disagree with the immigration enforcement policies and things. It's another to equate it with the worst crimes in history. Shame on you, man. Shame on you. If we're ever going to have a serious discussion about this stuff, control, safety, and community trust, we need to elevate the conversation, not dilute history with inaccurate comparisons. You are terrible. You are terrible. And anyone who even if you don't agree with the deployment here, even if you don't agree with that, you should feel a certain type of way by this man comparing Anne Frank and the Nazi occupation, the Holocaust, to this. This is terrible. This is terrible.
It's disgusting and pathetic. He's pathetic. And I want to know where he was when 300,000 kids were missing because they were trafficked here. Kids are still missing. Sex trafficking, slave trafficked. We still can't find them all. So where's the outcry for that? If we want to make this about kids who are scared, what about the kids we haven't found, the kids that were lost? What about some of those kids may not be with their dads and moms? What about some of those kids are actually not related to the people keeping them in the houses and ICE is finding them? What about those kids? And we know those operations happen, and we know that ICE is actually, Tom Homan has talked about the kids that he has found because of this. That's just disgusting that you would want to stop that. And you would want to use it as a scapegoat, or you're right, KJ. They need to not only twist history, they need to rewrite history. And that is what they've been doing for the last 10 years. Y'all, COVID taught us anything. They tried to rewrite history.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is what they're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what they're doing. But we know beyond historically inaccurate, this comparison also fails the biblical test, folks, because scripture gives us clear guidance on truth, authority, justice, and the danger of bearing false witness, especially from these leaders. Okay. These false comparisons violate the commandment against bearing false witness. And this man, he's not new to this, because he lied about his military record. So of course he's going to get on here in front of the cameras and lie about this stuff. So I'm not surprised at that at all. But again, we have to continue to call this stuff out. We have to call it out. And what they're doing is trivializing evil. This is what he's doing. And we know Ecclesiastes 5:2 says, do not be rash with your mouth. Let your words be few. Okay. So when leaders weaponize the Holocaust and imagery from there, they dishonor the dead and confuse moral clarity. That's it. And that's what we're seeing here. So this is why we call it out, folks. As you come in, please hit that like button. Hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. Folks, we hit a big milestone today. We just hit 13,000 subscribers on Christian Conservative. Oh, we are so happy. I'm so happy. we're building a community. We're building, like-minded people here who share our values. As we have said over and over again, we love you guys. Thank you for joining us on here every Sunday and Thursday. And we're building, connections. Of course, Pastor Damon
Hey,
from
Pastor Damon.
Beginnings, yes, here. And then Patrick from the Bible, what was it? Philippians 1:9, I believe, ministries. So you guys are just the best. We love you all. Thanks for joining us. And again, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to stay informed, inspired, and empowered. All right. And we have our merch, folks. That's a great way to support the channel as well. Let me pull that up here. Let's see here. So you guys can see what we have. Because we have a great merch store right on our YouTube page. So if you go to the YouTube page and you tab over to store, and you can get some great stuff, folks. Let's see here. Here we go. And so we have shirts, sweatshirts. This is really cool here. Oh, can you see it, or did it go away?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me see. Share this tab. Okay, there we go. All right. So really cool shirts, Christian conservative, all kinds of stuff here for you guys to take a look at and shop. So this is right on the homepage of the YouTube page. So there it is. When you go to Christian conservative and you tab over to store, we got hats, we got t-shirts. This one we love, Fight for Truth. Yes. So let me see here. There it is. So this t-shirt has here, we expose the lies, defend our values, and fight for truth in a world that desperately needs it. Great way to support us, and we really appreciate you all by doing that. All right.
And I think we have a picture with Pastor Damon. If you see it in one of our shops, Pastor Damon and his wife and some of his congregation members, and they're on the Hey Nadine and everybody who's watching from North Carolina. They had their shirts on. Look at that. I loved it. Talk about a conversation starter. I make people mad wearing that at some of these events out here.
Yeah, see that
bad legislation.
So that's Pastor Damon.
Good.
Yep, Nadine, his wife, all of them there supporting the channel with their shirts. Isn't that nice? Oh, look at Pastor Damon. All right, that is really nice. So yes, indeed. All right. So again, as you come in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience. And folks, we got to keep Minnesota in our prayers. We got to, because there are righteous people there. Their righteousness, there's some people there that are righteous, as we saw that church where that was invaded last week. So we have to keep the righteous in prayer. Just asking God to protect them, protect these ICE officers that are just trying to do their jobs and to rid the city from violent people, violent illegals. We just have to keep everybody lifted up in prayer. So please do that with us as we do. All right. So we want to change gears a little bit here and talk about a viral video that has been making its rounds. Over the weekend, the mask has come all the way off, folks. Jennifer Welch, she is a left-wing activist and host of the podcast I've Had It, unleashed a vile, hateful tirade, calling white evangelical Christians a cancer. All right. Let that sink in. She's not extremists, not criminals, not violent radicals, Bible-believing Christians. All right. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This wasn't satire. This was raw ideological hatred. And it reveals something, folks. It reveals a much bigger picture about the modern left and how they view us, Christianity itself. All right. Take a look here. We have that clip here. Let's see here. All right. Okay, here we go.
Prepare to be angry.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Take a look.
So when you think about the Erica Kirks, the Life Church, the Joel Osteen of it.
I just want to say really quick, they hate Erica Kirk. Whoa, boy. These leftists can't keep her name out of their mouths. What is it about Erica Kirk these people cannot stand? Oh my goodness. Let's continue.
It all. And their desire of it all. And their desire to accumulate wealth while hoodwinking their flock into thinking they're super moral. This is a cancer. White evangelical Christianity is a cancer. These are the worst of our country.
Wow.
These are the worst people in our country because they use their religion in two ways, as a weapon and as a shield. They weaponize it whenever they want to and say, we're on the moral high ground. You're a lesbian. You deserve to die. You're a lesbian. The cops shouldn't have revived you. Oh, your parents are Mexicans and they brought you over here. Yeah, you should go to jail and eat worm food. And then when you call them out on it, oh my God, they're after the Christians. How dare they? How dare they? We're so oppressed. White Christians are so oppressed in this country. And they want it both ways because in the religion, that duplicity is taught. You can be morally duplicitous. You thrive in cognitive dissonance. And so this is just a massive, massive problem. And it should come as no surprise to anyone that of this cult that I'm talking about, white evangelicals, I think over 80% went and voted triple trumped.
All right. So, first of all, now I'm not a white evangelical. I am an evangelical. But I know many white evangelicals. I've never heard them say any of the stuff she said. Never. What is she talking about, Michelle?
First off, the worst in our country are their plastic surgeons and whoever wrote that nonsense for them to read, because she was reading that from her paper, which is great, yada, yada, yada. I am so done with her podcast, first off, but I've had it with her stupid comments. So we've had videos of her before. She is so stuck on, again, stupid. And I know I say that, but she is addicted to stupidity. And her rhetoric is not only vile, but is ignorant. And it's actually for her suicidal. Oh. And I mean that literally. It is women like her, or the two women that are in this, that will vote for the Mamdanis, waiting for them to be forced to hijab and say, oh, what happened? How did this happen? You will be begging for an evangelical to say you're sorry, tired, behind. So first off, watch your mouth, because you don't know what an evangelical is, and an evangelical doesn't have color. We have the Holy Ghost. That's what we have. So don't get me started on that, because the rest of this podcast will be me speaking in a whole nother language and bringing down a whole nother fire. Right. That's what she needs, because she's never really met an evangelical, especially if she's so dumb as to say Joel Osteen.
No, I know that's the thing.
You've never walked into an Assemblies of God church, I guess.
I said, who? I said, what? Joel Osteen? No, sir. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
We could go old school, because actually I was raised in a white evangelical church. That's where my grandparents took me to on one side and a Baptist church on the other side. No. I am so done. And you know what? Evangelicals have nothing to do with race. Evangelicals have to do with Christ, and that's what they're scared of. They're scared because Christians showed up and voted, and they need to be really afraid, because if Christians did what they were supposed to do, you would never hear or see another woman like that again. You wouldn't have Mamdanis, because Christians would know who they're supposed to vote for. And it's not for the communist, ungodly, unworthy people that they have in these offices right now. And women like her continue to spew and spit their hate. Again, uneducated. But let me tell you something again, evangelicals look like us. And that's all of us. That's us in the chat. That's us in the street. And you know what? My pastor right now, evangelical, he's Puerto Rican, you fool. The majority of my church right now is mixing everything, but Hispanic, you better believe Hispanics are conservative, and evangelicals too. So not only will they bring down the Holy Ghost, but you maybe hear them speaking in tongues and in Spanish and in any other language. Again, their stupid is showing, and I have had it.
Yeah. And folks, notice how she, Welch didn't just say Christians, she racialized it. Okay. The left cannot stop sorting Americans into racial boxes. And this is the Marxism. This is what Marxism requires. It requires the division, and the division requires grievance, and the grievance requires enemies. So Christian unity across race destroys their narrative, folks. This is why we are so dangerous to them, not just because we're Holy Spirit filled, because we know that as Christians, we are not black, we are not white, we are all sons and daughters of the King. Okay, that is it. We all come together under Christ. All right, and they want to fracture the church by skin color. This is straight out of the Marxist playbook: divide, label, and demonize. And this is why we cannot let them do it. We cannot. Okay. And so let's talk about evangelical Christians, because she said so many lies, but one of the biggest things is it's disproven by the data, folks. Evangelicals lead in donation rates. Evangelicals are if not the largest philanthropic group in the country. All right. 79% gave money last year, far outpacing non-evangelical Christians, non-religious people. It's way above average annual giving. So religious Americans donate almost $2,000 versus $700 for non-religious people. That's over twice as much. Yeah. All right. Church attendees, like most evangelicals, give a lot of money annually, more than non-attendees. I mean, the list goes on, and you can just do a simple Google search and find this. Not only that, but when you want to talk about pro-lifers, you want to talk about people who day in and day out are out here donating to pregnancy centers, taking women who single moms just under their wing and helping, making sure they have enough during while they're pregnant, and then once the baby is born, we donate, making sure these people have places to live and all this time. What is she talking about? What is she talking about? Every church I've gone to, literally, I visited a church a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about the women's shelter that they were building, and we were donating for that. I mean, the impact of religious folks is so far and so wide, not just in this country, but the world. I don't know what she's talking about.
You guys can find me. I'm in the local newspapers here in Southern Maryland. I built a women's shelter, and I donated. We donated kitchens. We donate a lot of things to women's shelters. My evangelical family, with my evangelical white husband, apparently, which is the root of this evil, this wickedness. You know what? I'm going to tell them right now. I'm going to give them a good old warning. Don't mess with people who believe that Christ is coming again.
Right.
Stop talking about people who believe that Jesus is coming back again, because you can't stop us. We are built different because our faith is different. You don't get to categorize us because of your ignorance, because of your fear. What you should actually do is attend the church. You should actually repent. You should actually find Jesus.
Yeah.
Because then you'll realize that we don't say anything that you are saying. Now, there might be some people out there that will condemn a sin. Yes. Right. And if you understand the word of God, then sin is clearly laid out, and sin is sin. We don't cast people out of the churches for it. We pray for them and with them. We do all that we can to bring them to the place they need to be, which is right with God. Right. They need this. They need to separate it. It's the same people who believe that, boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and they need to pit us as being hateful, as being something that's vile, as being something that's destroying our republic because they call it a democracy. That's what they're doing right now. They're spinning that narrative. Unfortunately, they're going to have plenty of people that follow it and believe it. But I think they're starting to push way too far, go way too far to one side. And it's time for us, like Christian conservatives, to say, hey, this is enough. We've had it with this.
Absolutely, folks. As you come in, please hit that like button. It helps to tell YouTube to get this video out in front of more people. We appreciate it. That's what we need. We have some super chatters here. Kung Fu CJ says, "Oh shucks, MT," talking about you, Michelle.
I know, get angry.
All right. Let's see here. Laura says, "Y'all getting ready to come out of that TV." Yes, indeed. Laura. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, and as you mentioned, Michelle, this is biblical. It's a spiritual warfare. We have said this time and time again on here. And this is just confirmation that we're living in the last days for me. I know we've been saying this for many, many, many years, but the Bible warns that in the final days, good will be called evil, truth will be despised, and those who stand on God's word will be mocked, targeted, and attacked. And that's what they're doing to Erica Kirk. I mean, God, who would have an issue with this woman? The woman, she stayed out of the spotlight and raised her children all while Charlie Kirk was alive. Now that he has passed, she's actually forced into the limelight pretty much. And she's doing the best she can. But the only thing the woman has been talking about is the Bible. Every time you hear her speak, she's talking about God and Jesus and what the Lord has done for her and how she's praying for her enemies. And they just hate this woman. This is what the Bible talks about. In the last days, perilous times shall come, lovers of themselves, proud, blasphemers, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. So again, self-worship, moral decay, and hatred of biblical authority. All right. This is what we're going through. And this is why they don't like people like Erica Kirk, because she's always pointing people back to Christ.
Yeah, I mean, what's sad is I hear that I hear rhetoric about her from Christians.
I know. Yeah, I know.
She's not good enough for anybody. She wasn't good enough when she's behind the scenes. You know, she's really, why don't we see her more? She's not good enough now that she's in front. And this woman experienced real trauma.
Yeah.
Real trauma. Not what they're trying to make up all these ICE incidents out of, real trauma. And yet she's still standing and still raising her children. So I don't know, again, you're right, KJ, what the hatred is towards her. I've heard people, I don't like her eyes. Why? She creeps me out. I don't like what she's wearing. What? What does that have to do with her love of Jesus and her message spreading?
Whoop. Matthew 24. You will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. Matthew 24, 9 through 12, folks. There it is. There it is. See, as you continue to point people to Christ, the demons and the evil is that riles them up, okay? And they hate it. And so what do? They use dehumanizing language like cancer to dehumanize us. And it's exactly what happens when love grows cold. All right? The Bible is all right there in the Bible. So this is what we're experiencing. And guess what? It's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. It has gotten worse. All right. So what does that mean for Christians? What does that mean for Bible believing Christians like us? What are your thoughts there, Michelle? The world is going to get more wicked and it's going to get tougher. What do we do?
Well, when you said that, when you made the comment, hearing it again from you that Christians, white evangelical Christians are like a cancer, I actually instantly thought about ancient Rome.
Ooh.
All I could think about was the leaders looking at Christianity as a plague, as the same way that they looked at the people of Israel, the Jewish people, 1,000 years before that.
Right.
This is a parasite, this is a plague, this is dangerous. They are the cancer because they're spreading too quickly, because we're spreading the gospel, because we're telling the truth. So that makes us dangerous. So if you want to know what happens, then just go look at history. Open up your Bible, go study ancient civilization. Look at what Caesar did. Many of them, let me just say, there were multiple of them, but we could just pick a few bad guys out of history and look what they did, because they saw us Christians or evangelicals now, because it's not just Christians, right? They're okay with certain forms of Christianity. They're going to always be okay with the Jesse Jacksons of the world. They're going to always be okay with the ones that come out, and make a lot of money off of young dead Black men who are murdered by what they perceive to be a race-related issue. So they're always going to be there. They're going to be okay with those, what is that, Jamal, whatever that, false prophet is. They're going to be okay with
Law
him.
Bryan. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But they're not going to be okay with the ones who preach the truth. We are the dangerous ones. Those are the dangerous ones. So you push back. What did they do in ancient times? We saw them in the Colosseum. We have witness of them being in the Colosseums. Yeah, they died. They were willing to die for the message of Christ. And not always in force. Some were peaceful. Some just spread the gospel no matter what and said, fine, take me if you have to. Again, I give warning to the world that not all of us are those kind of Christians anymore. So whatever, some of us are some Peters. Some of us are some of you might lose some ears or worse. So let's be honest about that. They will come after us in force. But we have enforcers. We have angels beside us. We have again, I say we are evangelical. So what do I see it's going to happen? Yeah, it's going to get dangerous. What are we going to do? Are we going to speak back and stand up and continue to spread the gospel and come out stronger? Are we going to prepare this world for Christ to come back? You better believe we are. You better believe you need to. That's what I say to that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. So when these people call Christians cancer, folks, understand what we're witnessing. Not comedy, not activism, prophecy. This is prophecy playing out in real time. As we said, the Bible told us the world would hate truth. The world's going to despise righteousness and target believers. And here we are. But guess what? We don't respond with fear. We're not going to respond with hatred. We respond by standing firmer, speaking louder. We coming through the TV, as Laura said. And walking boldly in truth. Okay, that's it. And this is why Michelle and I, we have platforms like this, because we need to come together as a community of Christians, Bible believing Christians. We come together. Pastor Damon has his YouTube page and Facebook, Celebrating New Beginnings, and he is pushing out that on fire word of God. We need strong Christian conservatives like that, like us, and you all in the chat, Laura, Allie, S-Files, all of you guys are why we do this. It's you. We're not only, hopefully we come on here and we're inspiration for you, but you are inspiration for us. Okay. All right. Because if the attacks are increasing, that means the clock is ticking and the church is doing exactly what it was called to do. Even though we complain about, these woke pastors and stuff, we're standing up. We're standing up and we're doing what we need to do, what we're called to do. And that's what's making evil scared. And they need
you know what? Those pastors that we talk about here, the churches, when we talk about any one Democrat, we actually are just calling for them to repent. We're actually calling for them to get closer to God and find their first love again. So even when we're calling them out, we're just calling them out to say, hey, you better find the Lord, because you're leading people down a path to where they aren't saved. You're not saving people, which is your job in leadership. And when I say be bold, guys, I know it says Talkington for Congress down there. I'm saying that because I've met with people, and the first thing that they were telling me to do is not do what I'm doing right now. First thing they want me to do is not be on a Christian conservative podcast. They don't want me to talk about spreading the gospel. They don't want me to talk about my Christianity because it's too far right. It's too conservative. I say run for those offices. I tell you, why would I be doing any of this if it wasn't God that called me first? So you're not going to convince me to step down or not talk about my faith and my beliefs because I'm running for a political office, because I'm going to tell you right now, I believe in the Constitution. It has clear rules, but I have a biblical worldview. Mandani has a worldview. The Muslims that are taking over, radical Islamists that are taking over leadership in states like Texas or Michigan, they are absolutely clear about their faith. They're so clear that they're able to get ordinances passed in their cities where they can start putting out their bells and their call to worship 5 times a day. They're very clear about their faith. So why do they want Christians to be quiet when taking office or running for office? Or why do they only want Christians who will bend, that will bow like we, just flapping around doing whatever? So that's something we better be prepared for. We better run for those seats. We better put people, godly people in those seats. Do not remain silent, and don't be afraid because somebody above you or with more money than you or you think can hurt your business or hurt who you are, tell you not to. I say it over and over, only God himself is going to change my path. So unless you're him and I hear from him directly, that's not happening.
Yeah, you're right. All right, folks. Again, as you come in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience, and we appreciate the support. Again, this is Christian Conservative. All right. Your bold, unfiltered news and analysis on the issues that matter most to Christian conservatives. So again, subscribe now to stay informed, inspired, and empowered. All right. So we are going to switch gears a little bit. We've been kind of heavy all throughout the beginning or the top of the show. Kind of want to get on a sort of a lighter topic. And so we're going to talk about modesty. Okay. So in a viral video recently, not sure, we've talked about this on here before, Pop the Balloon. So Pop the Balloon is a dating show here on YouTube, and it went viral for an unexpected reason. A man calmly rejected a woman, not because of her looks, but because she openly said she dressed immodestly and would not change her attire even if her future husband asked her to. Okay, so that moment has sparked outrage all over social media. But today we want to ask you all a deeper question. What does God say about modesty, humility, and honoring our spouses? So we have the clip here. Let's see here. And want to get your guys' opinion on this. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Here we go.
Probably. Yeah. I want to wear what I want when I want.
Thank you.
Okay. Here we go.
It was commented that the outfit is teetering towards risque. I'm a fashion guy, so I have a level of tolerance, but I want to know if we would call this a 6 in a scale, 1 to 10 scale. This is a 6 for how revealing it is.
Okay.
On a normal basis and on your social media, where's the average? How revealing do you normally dress and present yourself?
That's a good question. On my social media.
So just to kind of catch you guys up. So you see what she has on. I think the whole back is out, it's skin tight. And they chose each other. So at this moment in the show, what happens is they come up to the front with the host, and they have just a couple final questions on, if they're going to be a match. And so at this point, she chose him, but he's trying to decide if he's going to stay with her or pop his balloon and not go with her. But he's asking her about her outfit. Does she generally dress like this, or is this something she just did for the show? So this is where we are. Here we go.
I'm trying to think of the 4 pictures that.
So there's the whole outfit. She has on like a skin tight pants.
It's a backless, strapless leotard. It's a backless, strapless bodysuit.
Yeah.
So, hey, those were all the thing in the 90s, 80s, and 90s.
Right. Yeah, but she got even her boob, your side boob action. So, okay, here we go.
I have
Let me
now, but when I have free time, I do like.
Right. So you guys saw. So basically, he was just like, if I asked you to tone it down, if we, start dating and you're my woman, and I asked you to tone it down, would you consider that? And she was like, no. So he didn't choose her. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Michelle. Firstly, in chat and in the chat, let us know what you guys think. I saw Laura. I think she said she felt like her outfit was fine. What did you think, Michelle?
You know, it's interesting. He thought her outfit was fine and he gave it a 6 and risque. Right. He was just asking her smart questions because we're talking about a show that's trying to pair you up to find, you know, maybe your spouse, the person you want to be with. And so then it comes down to, how do you want that wife to be presented, or how should you all, you know, go out together? So I think it's interesting. It did bring me back to that, you know, Jamal Bryant, because I know Pop and Politics, I think you had the image of his wife. If you guys have not seen it, Jamal Bryant's wife had an outfit that was worse than this, I would say, by far. It was practically see-through in different places. It was risque. But if you are a first lady or a pastor's wife, you expect modesty. What does the word say on modesty? I go to that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I know that when I was dating my husband, I was a model. I was a promotional model as a profession going through college. And so that was for all kinds of companies. Some of them were alcohol companies, some non-alcoholic. I wore whatever costume or whatever outfit they put me on. They paid for me to be skinny, beautiful, and to sell their product. That was how my husband met me. We got into all of the clubs in DC and Baltimore for free, because that was my job. Wherever I went, I got in, and sometimes I would have security with me to go into these jobs. So he knew what I was wearing. Some of it was not as revealing. Some of it, again, was really tight. But when we dated, that's one thing. When I knew that was going to be my spouse, I started dressing what I thought was appropriate and what he was okay with as appropriate for a wife and a mom. And, you know, I still looked great. I still looked sexy going out, but not so much that I drew the attention of other men to just be checking me out. Why? Because I'm out there with my husband. When we got married, I was doing that with a different purpose, a different reason. So he had valid questions. I love that. What a gentleman. And the way that he just let her pop that balloon and walk away. At some point, we need to start respecting ourselves. That, though, she looks great in it. I don't have that kind of body anymore.
She did too. I thought, I mean, you know, I think it depends. A lot depends on this. You know, age. You know, is she a mom? You know, I think she looks nice. I do think she looks nice there. I mean, I don't think the outfit is too bad. You know, she does have a little side boob action that's probably a little risque, I think. But two things that come down for me, okay. One is the part about if your man asks you to change. You know, I think that's a big deal. I think if your husband or you know, the guy that you're dating, you're exclusively dating, asks you to change, or, you know, asks you to dress a little modestly, I think you should do it. I think that you should. And definitely if he's your husband. You know, and I've said this before, I love fashion. I always have. You know, I just do. And I'll be honest, I probably have been kind of risque before, you know, and, you know, I like to look nice and flashy and stuff at times, depending on the situation. But, and my husband has never had to ask me to dress down or dress differently, you know, anything like that. Because I definitely don't want to embarrass, you know, my husband. But to me, I started to change once I became a mom. You know, because you have your kids and then they have their friends, and I never want to be in a situation where I'm embarrassing, you know, my child. So, and I always like to keep a definite line there where, you know, between child and adult. So that's when I kind of started toning it down a little bit. But it's just let's talk about what the Bible says, though, because this is where we are here. You know, the Bible is clear. Modesty reflects the heart. So Scripture consistently teaches us that, you know, how we dress should reflect godliness, humility, and reverence for God, not self-exaltation. 1 Timothy 2:9-10 says, emphasizes modesty and good works over outward display. 1 Peter 3:1-4 teaches that true beauty comes from a gentle and quiet spirit, precious in God's sight. So it's about your character and it's about control, really.
Yeah. You're right. That's what I went to, is it First Timothy. And I also want the women to dress modestly with decency and propriety. Right. So what is that for us now? And that's, that's interesting. So this is where culture starts coming in, because we can see it in other places. What does your culture, how does that influence what modesty is to us?
Right.
Because I don't think she realized that would not necessarily be considered modest. It is skin tight. It is essentially a swimsuit. But then when we're out in a swimsuit, we don't care, right? She was like a fly girl, like ready. She was ready for Soul Train line. I was ready to see her dance. Go ahead. It was throwback vibes, but that's not what do Christians see as modest. And then you can go through what, Catholics or what, you've got categories of modesty. So that's a deeper discussion. What in the chat? What do you think is modest?
Right.
What is modesty to you? Because here in biblical times, they talked about adorning themselves in the historical context with a lot of jewelry. So earrings and necklaces and hair, all kinds of stuff that would go on your hair and adorn your hair. Those were things they would also say, hey, look, don't do this. You shouldn't, that's drawing too much attention to yourself. And why would they say that? Was it in comparison oftentimes to what non-Jewish people were doing at the time? So they're looking at the ancient, people that were, it could be Romans, we can go all the way back. What were they wearing versus what you should wear? Let's us be set apart. Let's us be separate. Let's us be modest, because they're over there wearing all kinds of stuff. We don't want to look like them. What's modesty?
Well, let me ask you this, because some people say that, if a husband makes a comment, or, if you dress, if your husband says, hey, babe, I don't think that's appropriate, I'd like for you to change, and you change, some women say that submission is oppression. You're oppressing me. You're trying to rule me. Talking about the man or the husband ruling the wife. What are your thoughts there? Do you think that's why some women say they don't like submission, because it's oppressive and you're telling me what to wear or what not to wear?
Well, there's a fine line between what's oppressive and are you in a godly marriage? So if you're in a godly marriage, then I would say, then wives, submit to your husbands, because then how the rest follows. How your husband is then supposed to treat you the same as Christ, treats the church. There are rules. There's an entire set of rules. So it's not oppressive. It's your husband. Why is he asking you that? Is it because, I don't like that, you look horrible in it, and he's actually demeaning you? That is a different behavior than saying, oh, babe, I'm really not comfortable with that outfit. Like it's not modest enough. Do you have something else to wear? Which to me, I would be like, okay, yeah, what about this? So it depends on your relationship. Is this a godly relationship? And are you willing to submit to your husband in that area? Are you guys willing? Do you have a relationship where you can compromise? Do you have a mirror in front of you? Because it could be, sometimes we like to get angry because I don't fit the same dresses that I used to fit. I thought I fit them, but they're like 4 kids back. I've got on 6 kids. I have the 6 kid weight now, not the 4 kids weight. And there's some dresses in there that I've put on. I've been like, oh my Lord, this is not going to work. Things are popping out of all kinds of places. I just should improve my wardrobe. And I say that not just to be silly, but to say, guys, what's your relationship with your spouse? And is it important to you that you guys find common ground? Is modesty important to you? Pray about it. If it's really that much of a fight, then there's probably something else going on in the relationship that has nothing to do with your husband asking you to change your outfit.
Right. Exactly. Now, what I liked about this exchange is it was very different than what we see in culture now. So it's just like we generally see guys wanting you to wear the least amount of clothing as possible, with these rappers and these pop stars, the Oscars, and they seem like the clothing just gets less and less each year. So I thought it was very refreshing to see this guy say, you know, hey, I'm actually, that matters to me. You know, I think you're beautiful, and you know, I love a beautiful woman, but it matters to me what you wear if you become my woman. You know, I thought it was refreshing. I really did.
I thought it was great because he had his own sense, and he said he was into fashion, but he has his own sense of pride. He has his own sense of, he knew that that was a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And he flat out was like, you are a beautiful woman. If we get further into this relationship, I think he was kind of saying, I want your beauty to be for me. You're still beautiful. If this is where it stands. So she just said a 6 or a 5, and he would have been fine with it. But she's like 6. And then she thought about, no, 7. So she was actually just pushing it to say, no, I'm just not going to change. I think that was more of a deal breaker.
Yeah. He said, if I asked you, would you, you know, tone it down? She said no. And then he was like, well, I can't deal with that. I was really surprised because she's a pretty girl. She is a pretty girl. So yeah. I think that was nice. I do. I think it was refreshing. I'll say. I think it's refreshing.
I go back to, what is modesty for us now? Fashion changes all the time. Cultures where you go overseas, it may not be modest, but you can still go overseas and find people that are in, you know, native or tribal garments. To us, that wouldn't be modest because we're not used to wearing that, right? You're not going to go to Hawaii and be like, oh, put some more clothes on when you do that native traditional dance. No, that's not our culture. But for us as Christians, make sure, where is your heart? Are you saved? Somebody made that in the comment, you know, or follow how the Lord is leading you in what modesty is. And we shouldn't be ashamed to be modest. And for that couple, both of them, you know, 2 people, sorry, they're not a couple, but those 2 people in that clip, I was so proud that they understood who they were, and he had his morality set. He knew where he was with his moral standards, and he wanted to see where she was. That is where we all need to be, especially with Christians. If you're out there dating, or you're, you know, starting to date again, that's a standard right there. That clip that you showed us was a standard for what do I want to look like when I go out. And again, that was her wear for this show. Right. So she probably took a lot of time, and that's different than my girl who's competing in gymnastics this weekend, right? She's gonna have like a little swimsuit on, or somebody that's in dance. Right. That's different. This is just your daily wear. What are you gonna look like in your daily wear? And I'm sure some of us have seen some things at churches who've been like, whatever they wearing. I love his standards. It was a fun clip. Modesty is important. Judge that on your standards and pray about it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, folks. Well, that does it for us tonight. Thank you all so much for watching on this snowy night here in Maryland, at least. And a lot of people all up and down the East Coast are dealing with this snowstorm tonight. We'll probably get ice. So again, we are praying for all of you that may have winter weather where you are. I hope you are warm and you got plenty of food. And if you do have to go out, you are safe. Final thoughts for the audience, Michelle?
Guys, stay warm out there, but be ready. The real fight is coming, and it's not flesh and blood. What you see on TV, don't be swayed one way or the other. Stay in the Word. Be prepared, spread the gospel no matter what. Know that the enemy is using every kind of tactic at the beginning of 2026. We're not even in the month of February, and we see all tools of wickedness on all sides of us. So again, stay in that firm foundation. That is Christ. And like I said, be ready, be warm. Don't go out there picking a fight, but be prepared if it comes to you.
Absolutely. All right. That's it for tonight's episode. If you were blessed by this conversation, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Also, share this broadcast, post it to your social media, send it in a text message or a DM. Lots of people are just home. I know you guys are tired of watching, Netflix or Prime or whatever you watch, Hulu. So send this to somebody. Maybe they'll sit down who may not generally watch, and they may not have anything else to do and watch tonight. So we appreciate each and every one of you guys. We're here to stand on truth, speak life, and fight for faith and family. Until next time, keep your eyes on Christ, your heart rooted in truth, and your voice unshaken. We'll see you on Thursday. We'll be back Thursday night at 9 p.m. God bless.